Hi everyone, welcome back to session 4 and it's part 5, and we have been focusing on the metacognitive skills that are required in order to facilitate deep text understanding. And what we're going to focus on now is actual question answering, and we're looking at the literal questions first of all, and these are the questions that the student can find the direct answer within the text. Just to recap on what we've been doing thus far, we focused on the steps that are required in order to ensure we reach that level of full understanding of the text. In order to do this, we first of all need to, step 1, identify the main idea of the entire text. After doing this, we then need to read through the text in its entirety and use context clues in order to establish the meanings of unknown words. After we've read through the text, we then need to highlight the keywords in each paragraph in a different color. We then, step 4, use the keywords in each paragraph along with the topic sentence or the first sentence in each paragraph to establish what the main idea of each paragraph is. And we write this main idea at the side of each paragraph on the text. And only once the student has done all 4 of these steps are they now ready to use the text for studying, for research, as well as to answer questions. Right, when tackling questions, the first thing I like to highlight to the students immediately, even before they start the comprehension, is that I don't like them to read through the questions first prior to reading the text. The reason for this is what I find, particularly with your students who have learning difficulties or learning disabilities, is they tend to focus then when they're reading the text more on finding the answers rather than on reading the text for meaning and understanding. And so very often they lose the full understanding of the text and silly mistakes are made because they haven't established this as yet. So I say to them, ignore the questions and only check and look at these once you've followed steps 1 to 4 in terms of the metacognitive strategies. Right, when they are ready to do this, the first thing I get them to do, my students to do, is read through the questions and highlight the keywords in each question. And I highlight to them the fact that question words are always keywords. So question words like your WH words, who, what, where, when, how, which and why. And then words like describe, explain, annotate, hypothesize. And I get them to decide what this question word requires of them in terms of information. So I get them to highlight the word and then think, right, what do I need to find? What information is it requiring of me first before they start looking for the information? I also get them to take note of when a question involves 2 or more steps, or whether there's 2 or 3 questions within a single question. Okay, so for example, what was the name of Alexander Bell's first invention, and briefly describe this. So in this particular question, I would get the students to realize that there's 2 parts to the question, and they must keep this in mind the whole time while searching for information so that they don't forget to answer one of the questions. To find the answers quickly, I get the students to match the keywords in the questions with the matching paragraph main idea. So, i.e., the paragraph that the student feels will most likely find the answer based on each paragraph main idea. I always get the students to look at the mark allocation so they can establish how much they need to write. And I tend to explain to them that each point equals 1 mark. And I encourage the students, once they've written the answers, to check their answers. And I use an editing strategy which I find works really well because it's easy for them to remember. It's called GPS. Read over your answer and check first the G, which is the grammar. And what I mean by this is look that you've written in a full sentence and that the sentence makes sense. Read over it again and check for P, which is your punctuation. And lastly, read over it a last time and look for S, which is your spelling. And GPS is something that all the students remember because it's nice and easy for them. Okay, when the students are finally getting to a point that they're answering questions, they really do realize that these 4 steps in terms of metacognitive skills are really, really the tricks of the trade. And they suddenly realize that, oh my gosh, I've been through all this reading over and highlighting keywords and doing paragraph main ideas, but now that I've done this, it's so quick and easy for me to find the answers. And also it's easier for me to understand what is required because now I properly understand the text. Okay, so here I've got an example of a reading comprehension based on the Industrial Revolution. It's entitled From Revolution to Reconstruction. You can see there's paragraph A, B, and C. So initially, the child, first of all, decided what the main idea of the text was based on the pictures, based on the heading, and based on either the topic sentence, the very first sentence in the story or the text, or the very first paragraph. They then had to read over it and obviously use context clues to establish meanings of unknown words and write these meanings of the words above the unknown word to ensure that they fully understand what they're reading. They then had to highlight the keywords in paragraph A, and then B, and then C in different colors. And then what I like to do is in a little bracket at the side of the paragraph, I write down the paragraph main idea. But in this text, I've written the paragraph main idea above each paragraph. And how did we establish that? Well, we looked at the keywords, and we also looked at the topic sentence or the first sentence in each paragraph. Only once they had done this, we then went down to the questions. And here you can see we've got 2 questions. We've got describe the policy of laissez-faire, and we've highlighted our keywords. It's worth 2 marks, so we know that we have to describe 2 things. And we've matched the keywords of policy and laissez-faire to paragraph B, so we know where to find the answer. In question 2, the question says, what was the main reason for rapid industrialization after the Civil War? We've highlighted our keywords, and we've seen that it's worth 1 mark, so we only need 1 point. And using the keywords rapid industrialization, we were able to match it to paragraph C and find the answer within paragraph C nice and quickly. Thanks very much. That brings us to the end of part 5, which was to do with literal question answering. We're now going on to part 6, which will look at the differences between literal and inference questions and how to answer the inference questions. Thanks so much.